What's going on, everyone? Today's video is actually a live Keepa beginning training that I did in the Reselling Freedom group with Steve Rakin. So if you don't know who Steve Rakin is, his name is Rakin Profit. He's all over YouTube. He's really into beginner, reselling. He actually made a group coaching that has multiple coaches. He's got me, he's got Mike the Used Book Guy, he's got, TJ and Lisa, he's got Diane Mashburn, he's even got himself. Basically, a whole bunch of really somewhat intermediate experienced coaches that sell on Amazon affiliate, sell on eBay, that really help people who are just getting into reselling in general, whether that be Amazon or eBay. So in any case, this was a live session that I did about just breaking down Keepa, going through it very, very slowly, going through it thoroughly, because I get a lot of people on my channel going, Joji, you talk way too fast. Can you slow it down a bit? And so I think this is actually going to be great content for my channel, because I know that we went quite slow here, but we broke down Keepa, we broke down a number of books, looked at kind of what they've been selling for, all the different toggles on the Keepa graph, and I think it was really helpful for the people who attend the live. So, by the way, if you're interested in joining that group, it's actually way more cost effective to do that rather than schedule one-on-one with me. Like, if you want to schedule one-on-one with me, currently I charge about $65 for 30 minutes. And if you're in the Reselling Freedom group, you get access to a whole bunch of coaches in their live sessions and also the pre-recorded or the recorded sessions, right, from when this program started. And I think it's like $47 a month. Don't quote me. I don't know exactly. I think it's $47 a month though. And you get a whole bunch of other coaches. There's multiple live coaching calls every single week. So if you're interested in those sessions and, if you're interested in getting group coaching with me specifically, that's going to be a great place for you to do so way more cost effectively, because again, you can even go back and look at the 10 plus coaching calls that I've already done, and that'd be included with that subscription. So yeah, check the link down below if you're interested in that. But otherwise, enjoy this 1 hour long Keepa beginner session. I think this could be really helpful for a lot of you. So let's just go and take a look at some books here. Maybe we can just even look at Keepa deals, and we can just see if let's just use Keepa to kind of break down certain books. So let's just look at this first one that pops up here. What do you think, Jim? Do you think it's easier to look at it in Keepa? Is it easier for you to see it that way? Or do you think it's easier on the Amazon listing? I mean, it's the same graph, but it's a different view. What do you think? So it'll pop up here.
I always use it on the Amazon listing. But so I noticed, like, when I'm watching your videos, your graphs seem a little more detailed sometimes than the ones I'm pulling up. So I don't know if that's because you're pulling it up from somewhere else but.
Yeah, I mean, one reason why there might be more detail, I might have more of these buttons click potentially. That might be
okay.
Yeah, that could be it. All right. So I really want just participation day in the audience, because I think, if by doing you learn. So Judith, we're going to have you go first here, and we'll go to Jim and hopefully Olivia, and then maybe other people will join. But do you know what this green line represents? This green line is called sales rank. You know what that means?
The green, it shows how often when it dips, usually is considered to be a sale, and it shows sale rank, and sales rank is how often does the book sell.
Yeah, very good. So looking at the sales rank here, how often would you say this book has sold? Look, this is the parameter the last year. So how many times would you roughly say this book probably has sold?
It looks like it's sold three times.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5 times, like somewhere in there, right? You can count them, right? There's 1, 2, maybe there 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So like between 3, less, probably like 5, like anywhere 3 to 5, somewhere in there, right? It's not an exact science, but does the book sell? Yeah, but will you say it sells a lot?
No,
not really, right? Okay, so that's good to know. Yeah, I like.
Wait, Joji, to tell whether it's sold new or used.
That's a really good, really good question. Well, let me ask you here. So right now we have this new button checked, and it actually doesn't appear on this upper graph here, and I even have the new offer count checked, and there is actually no new offer count. So obviously all these sales rank drops couldn't have been a new book selling, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For this one specifically, what I will say is try to line up the offer count for both new and used with the sales rank drop. So for example, you see the sales rank drop here, and you see that happens to coincide with this offer count changing 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So one really important concept going back to Judith is, I really like how she said a sales rank drop we tend to think it means a sell, right? But what's really cool about sales rank drops is it doesn't always mean a sell. It could be multiple sells. So think about it this way logically, right? Judith, if we had an offer count of 10 or 9, actually, that means if this number says 9 used, there were 9 people selling the book. And then over a few day period, now all of a sudden, after the sales rank drop, there's only 5 people selling it. Think logically, like, how did we go from 9 to 5 if there's only 1 sales rank drop, right? Because people would think there's 1 sale, but 4 offers are gone. They just disappeared. So there's a number of reasons why it could be, but that's a really important point to remember, that a sales rank drop doesn't factually mean 1 sale. It just means that the book became more popular, therefore it probably sold, but we don't know like how many times. We just know that it probably sold. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, if we also had new offer count here, Jim, and we see how, like, let's say the new offer count was 2, and we have a flat line all the way across as 2 the whole way, and then we see the used offer count change, you would then logically think probably the used offer sold. Does that make sense?
I get it.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say about this book, Judith, right? I'm going to use my cursor now. I'm going to go over to the left. I'm just going to slowly go over this black used line over time. What do you think this book is worth? Like, if I gave it to you for free, what would you list this book at?
If you gave it to me for free, so it's going to 15, it's going to 22, it's going to 27, I would probably list it. I would probably be, is this a textbook? No, it's wood carving. Okay.
Yeah, wood carving.
I'm
Yeah.
price it.
1997. Came out a while ago.
Yeah, I think I would price it 20 something, I think, maybe low 20s.
Yeah. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, I was thinking, and this is where I get a little confused, and I'm actually glad you asked that question, because it's something I wanted to ask. Is I would probably say around $20 somewhere in there. But then you also have if you're prime, if you could get the buy box, maybe 25.
I mean, you can actually, so there actually is no buy box right now, right? It says see all buying options. So you ever heard of a suppressed buy box, Judith?
I never have, no.
Okay, so this is called a suppressed buy box. What that means is there is no buy box. So suppressed just means there isn't a buy box. So what I'm going to do is just go to another product just to show you what the buy box is, right? Do you know what a buy box is?
I think so.
This right here, right?
The thing that people grab the most, for some reason, it's what they view, right? When they see the book, and you just this click thing, you just
add to cart, right? The add to cart button, right? It's called the buy box because this is the box right here, and this is where most people buy products. Because look, if you're a customer, what's easier? Is this easier, add to cart, or is it easier to click this little small button that says 5 used from 1257? Look through all the offers, figure out which one you want, and press, right? It's just easier, right? So most people buy from the buy box, right? So my point is, in the previous book we're looking at, is there a buy box?
Thank you. No one has ever explained it, like geographically located it. Thank you so much. My God.
You're welcome.
It's so obvious, but I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So this has no buy box. It's called a suppressed buy box. So the question is, why is the buy box suppressed? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Usually it's because Amazon thinks the price is too high, so they don't feel good about recommending the product in this way, right? So in this case, they're probably saying the book is too high. I mean, one of the reasons why is after this last person bought it, interestingly, the off count went from 10 to 4. Not sure why that happened, but then you can see that the used price went to 77, and then all of a sudden it dropped all the way back down to 33. So basically, they're just not offering a buy box on this. But yeah, I would go in line with you guys. Like Judith already said it, this is a slow-moving book. It's going to sell if you price it competitively. It's just not a fast-moving book. However, it is a low offer count. So if you're a prime seller, I think if you come in at 25, like Jim said, I think you could sell this book for sure.
But could you say that one more time? Amazon feels, I'm asking how Amazon thinks. It's a suppressed buy box because Amazon feels it's not worth the money that people are charging. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Amazon has a duty to not rip people off, right? Like there's consumer protection laws, so they can't, they're not allowed to let people price gouge on their platform. So they have an algorithm that tries to determine what the value of any item should be. And if the algorithm, which is a computer, it's not a human, if the algorithm thinks that the price of this product being asked for is too high, then the algorithm says, no buy box. We're going to make it harder for people to buy this product. They're going to have to come click on this 5 used and then go search through the listing, right, to try to buy these books, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Next question for you. Looking at the Keepa graph, Judith, do you think, so here's the Keepa graph that we saw, right? So we looked at the last year. Now we're looking kind of at the last 2,900 days. I'm kind of trying to go somewhat slowly over the lowest used price, looking at the sales rank drops. What we're going to do now is look at all the offers on the listing. Would you say any of these offers are competitive listings, competitive offers meaning, do you think these are likely to sell? Like people are willing to buy these at this price.
I would check my Keepa graph on my phone because I don't have it yet on my computer. I don't think so. I think 115 is way overpriced. 130.
Right. Okay, I would agree. 100 way right? What about 70 though? What about 77?
Well, we didn't see anybody paying anything like that when we
Exactly.
history.
Exactly.
I think somebody's dreaming.
Yeah, I would agree. I think someone is dreaming, right? One thing I really like to do is establish precedent. And what I mean by that is look at the entire history of a book and try to figure out the single point in time where it sold for potentially the most money ever. And what that means is I'm trying to find when that used price was the highest it's ever been when the sales rank has dropped. So to me, it looks like there's potentially this point. Actually, I think it's actually this point right here, June 1st. $49.80 was the lowest price with the sales rank drop. So when I say established precedent, I mean, what has the book potentially sold for at the max price in the past? I would say it looks like probably $50. But going back to what Judah said, it looks like normally it doesn't sell for that much, right? Most people are willing to pay between, you said like 20, 25, right? At least in the last year, that is, right? So my argument would be, out of all these offers, the only one that's even somewhat reasonable is this one, $32, right? And I think all these other people are pricing above precedent. So it's not that they couldn't sell. It's just that this would be like historic. If they sell, it'd be like, wow, this book sold for $77. It had never sold for that in the last 5 years. That's crazy. And that'd be the new precedent. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't sell books because they don't understand to look at what the book has sold for in the past. So very interesting book for us to look at because, I mean, there's really nothing special about that book, but I think we all learned a lot from just looking at that one book, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. This is a little bit more interesting. We'll look at this also on the Amazon page. Race Against Death. What a story. 1976. This book is an old book. Came out a long time ago. 2 versions, hardcover, paperback. Okay, Judith, what is the price of this book in the buy box right now?
In my box, it's $21.46.
Okay, $21.46. So then we'll scroll down the Keepa chart. All right. And then what do you see? What do you see with the sales rank? Sales rank here. I'll kind of let it pop out a little bit. What do you see with the sales rank over the last year?
Sales rank goes down to $4 million and almost $4 million, not quite. So 35 million. I'm 3.5 million, and then it goes down to, it looks like maybe 500,000.
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 669.
It goes all the way back up to about 3.7, and then boom, drops again. 336,000, right? Goes all the way back up, drops again. So how many times roughly would you say in the past year? There's also a few little drops over here. How many times roughly would you say this has sold in the last year?
It looks like 5, maybe 6.
Yeah. Handful of times, right? So on average, maybe like once every other month, something like that, right? Okay, highest used price here, right? Sales rank, or the used price was about 53, sales rank drop. And look here, Jim, look at the offer count. So you'd ask yourself, was this a used offer or a new offer that sold? Well, again, there's no new offer at that time, so it couldn't have been a new offer. There's actually no collectible offer at that time either. So, and then you see the used offer go from 4 to 3, right? So
I just wasn't checking those little circles, so I see.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's an interesting book because you see one sales rank drop for 50, and that might excite you, right? And one really important point that I want to make is for a lot of people who are scanning books still, and they're going out thrifting and are using software to make purchasing decisions like Scout Lease, Scout IQ, you could totally get duped just by being unlucky with the timing of when you scan a book. For example, if you were to have scanned this book on February 10th, the sales rank would have read 670,000. Lowest use price would be $53. And you'd go, I'm retiring early. Boom! $53 book, 600K rank. This thing is going to sell pretty quickly. I'm going to make good money. But, right, when we really look at generally when the sales rank drops, what is the price at? Like sub $10, right? Most of the time. And what's really important to realize as well is that there's also tons of dead time when the book is under $10 and nobody buys it. So that tells you that there really isn't much demand for this book, because really you can't buy a book for much cheaper than $10. And if people are deciding not to buy the book when it's literally as cheap as you can buy it for, then it means that inherently it probably is not very valuable. Like there might not be a lot of demand for the book. So on the other hand, talking about being unlucky with when you scan it, you could also have, scan this book back here on this date when the sales rank was 3.4 million. So November 23rd, 2019, you scanned it. 3.4 million ranked $2.60. Completely different story, right? What the scanning app tells you. In one case, you would accept. In the other case, you would deny. So that's what I mean about you can, easily get unlucky with when you scan books. Yeah.
Could I put a plug in? Because I do thrift quite a bit. It tells you that. It would say between 3 million to whatever that 668. It would tell you that rate. Okay.
Oh, that's really helpful.
It's very, very helpful. Yes.
Oh, that's good. So it shows you okay, that's really cool.
On Skelly, it shows the whole range. Yeah. The high points and lows.
That's really good. Oh, were you saying something, Jim?
No, I just said that's good to know because there's times that I've come home with a book and then I go in to price it out and I'm thinking it's going to be a great book and it turns out I end up pulling it up and it's like, wait a minute, everybody's in the used box for like $10 cheaper than, I mean, not a lot of times, but there's been a few times where I'm like, this book's not worth anything, after I've already bought it.
Yeah, I would agree. That's why I say Keepa is queen, Keepa is king, whatever you want to say. One or the other. Keepa is king, Keepa is queen. All right. Okay, here's an interesting book. Trevor Chamberlain. Buy box price. Boom. Is this buy box seller a merchant fulfilled seller or prime seller, Gia?
Prime seller.
Yeah, it's prime. So it says prime here, right? If it doesn't say prime, obviously it's merchant fulfilled. Usually I also have a shipping charge added to it. But let's scroll down here and look at the Keepa chart. Actually, this actually just hit my tracker like literally a couple hours ago. So that's pretty interesting. But what are you thinking about this book, Jim, with sales rate?
Yeah, it seems decent. I mean, 1.5 million, down to like 500,000, I guess, somewhere there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, before I started watching you, I would have never bought it, because like 1 million, if it was there, I would have been like, but now I kind of look at it and go, all right, I'm going to go a little long tail like Joji says on this.
Yeah.
And look at it a little bit different.
I mean, I always say,
yeah. Seems like this is a good buy right now. I mean, it looks like it's hanging around $60 normally.
Yeah, I would say
70.
I would say. I mean, I actually have bought this on April 27th of this year. So its potential potentially I could have sold this book already. I could go in my orders and look at it, but it is very likely that I already sold this book. But yeah, I mean, what we want to do is establish kind of, what do we think, Judith? What do you think this book is worth? Because this graph is really weird, Judith, because you notice that the black used line isn't always like straight this way. There's a lot of like very short, quick large drops. Like boom, 75 down to 19. And you're like, what? And then it's up here, it's 55, then boom, down to 23, and then goes right back up to 55. And then goes boom, all the way, right? So what do you think this book is worth?
It looks like it's coming up a lot into the 60s. And so it looks like you could sell it for 60 something.
Yeah, 60s. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so remember how we said this is the buy box price up here? 65? Right. One really cool thing on the Keepa graph is there's something called buy box used on the Keepa graph. And they're a little pink, or I don't know if it's pink or purple. It's these things, the pink or purple triangles, right? This is Keepa recording the buy box use price over time. And so what we can see is what has this price in the buy box been over the last 3 months or the last 6 months? Because remember, Judith, right? What are most people going to do when they come to a listing? Are they going to buy here or are they going to buy there?
The buy box.
Right. So knowing what the buy box price is over the last 3 or 6 months is actually really important because it gives us a really good understanding of what Amazon is pushing the product for. Amazon say, okay, we like this price point, $65. We want customers to buy at this price because we're enabling the sellers to have a buy box at this price. So what do you notice about the buy box price over time for the most part?
It's in the 60s, right?
It's in the 60s,
pretty
right?
level.
Yeah, it's pretty level, right? So even though you see these dips in price, even like today's dip in price, you would think that if you could buy this book for $18.92, you would think that Amazon wouldn't allow you to sell for $65. You'd think they would give them the buy box, right? Because you're like, that'd be doing a customer a better favor, giving it to them much cheaper than $65. But again, people will buy in the buy box, even though it's significantly more money because it's 2-day prime shipping, because they might not even know that this exists. Like, I bet you there's probably a certain percentage of customers out there that don't even know you can look at offers. They probably just assume you can only buy from add to cart, right? Now, what's a really interesting topic is I talk a lot about inflating the buy box and inflating the prime bump. And what I mean by that is, like, is there any time on this graph, Judith, where you think the buy box looks inflated? It looks significantly higher than it probably should be?
I don't see it inflated. It's generally 60 something. The highest thing is like 60, 79, 70 something.
You got in May, at the top of May, you've got
$160,
yeah.
Oh, very
you see that,
good.
right?
Very
So this is what I call inflated buy box, right? And the reason why I say it's inflated is because the lowest use price over time basically justifies or reasons that this book should be selling for in the $60 range, right? Because that's kind of what the cheapest price of this book on Amazon is over the last year. So then all of a sudden, when the buy box price is $140, which is, like $80 more, $70, $80 more than it normally is, that doesn't seem realistic to me. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody wouldn't buy it. It just means that it's probably very unlikely that someone would have bought the book for that price. And one of the reasons why, another key indicator why that's probably inflated is it doesn't stay there very long. It stays there for maybe half a month, and then it comes back down. You can see there's actually a repricing war back down. So potentially what could have happened here is there might have been just one prime seller. They were winning the buy box for whatever reason. Amazon was still deciding to award the buy box that high. And all of a sudden another prime seller probably came on listing, and now we come back to a more reasonable price here, right? So going back, Judith, would you buy this book on Amazon for $18.92?
I believe I would buy it.
Okay, you would buy it. Okay, now obviously we have to look at the shipping as well, because it's probably not free shipping. And let's see if you still change it, if you still create that. So in seller app, $18.92 plus $11.68 shipping. So you'd have to buy this book for $30. So let's just start, Judith. Well, what do you think you could sell this book for? Like, give me a conservative estimate. What do you think you could sell this book?
I think it would go for 60, averaging, it looks like it would go for 67, 69, I think. Thank you for doing that. Yes,
Okay. That's the buy box price. Okay. So so let's put 67 in. So if you bought it for $30.60 and sold for 67, you'd make a 50% ROI, $16 profit, right? That's an Amazon to Amazon flip. That's pretty crazy. It's not the best ROI. I mean, it's a 52% ROI. For online arbitrage, that's actually really good. Like most traditional online arbitrage sellers who buy generic products.
5%, right?
Yeah, it's like 25%. So 50% is great. In the book game, you can go like 200%, like crazy. So it's not high in terms of the book game, but it's still, where else are you going to get 52% return on your money? You're not going to get in the stock market. So I guess my question is, what's your perceived likelihood of this selling in 6 months? Do you feel good about the selling in 6 months, or do you think there's a high chance you would maybe not have sold it 6 months from now?
What I don't understand, and Olivia asked this, is the buy box, if it wasn't in the buy box, would it still sell?
If it wasn't in the buy box, that's a great question. People sell their products when they're not in the buy box. But you're going to get more sales if you are in the buy box, because most customers do buy. I don't know the exact number. It's not published. Amazon doesn't say what percentages. People make guesses if it's 95% or 85%. I don't think anyone really knows. I think the only definitive thing we do know is that more people buy from the buy box than from this used page here. So
how would you get the buy box?
Great question. It's interesting because, to answer your question first, you have to sell that type of item regularly, consistently, and have had people bought your items of that category. And Amazon doesn't have any problems with you. Like, customers don't have problems with you overall. So that means is, if you want to start winning the buy box for used books, you probably will need to have sold at least like 50 books. And not only have sold 50 books, but you're not getting counterfeit claims. Customers are not returning the books at an abnormally high rate. People are not giving you negative reviews every time you sell the book. In other words, Amazon is basically pushing this product in the face of a customer by giving you the buy box. And they don't want to just give willy-nilly, anybody who just opens an account the buy box, because Amazon is presenting themselves as a company saying, buy this product. They want to make sure Jim is actually a legitimate person who's actually not listing, a book that has a torn binding with dog pee on it in very good condition, right? So to win the buy box, you have to have consistent, repeated sales and no problems with Amazon, and eventually you'll win the buy box. Now, how long does that take? Well, again, this is not published, so it's not like Amazon says, Judith, sell 49 books in 3.5 months. They don't tell you that. All I know from experience is that the more books you sell, the more likely it is you get the buy box. The less problems you have with Amazon, the more likely it is you get the buy box. So focus on those things. Now, what's really interesting is that just because you might start winning the buy box, that's what they call winning the buy box. That means you're now a buy box eligible feature. Just because you start winning the buy box doesn't mean that if you sell a DVD, you're going to be buy box eligible. How do I know that? Because I've tried selling DVDs and I never get the buy box for DVDs because I don't sell DVDs. So Amazon, again, is wanting to kind of validate that this new product, these new things that I'm selling are also legitimate. Like, they're also going to result in a customer being happy. Because at the end of the day, that's all Amazon wants. They care about the customer. They don't really care about their sellers. They care about the customer. So always think about it from the perspective of how can I make the customer happy? If you do that, Amazon will be generally happy with you. So
Thank you. Could I ask a really short question? And if it's off topic, we do that.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
2 weeks ago, so I have a customer rating of 99% on Amazon, okay? Because I'm an honest seller. And I care about, okay, yes. So, but in 1 week, 3 books were returned and no one had a complaint. It was just customer return. And it weirdo. Have either of you had that just happen?
Yeah, I get books returned every day. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh yeah. Because it's just the nature of consumerism. Like there's just this percentage of people who are not happy with what they have and they return it for whatever reason. So yeah, I mean, I think my return rate's like, I don't know the exact number, but it's probably between 5 to 7%. The good news is that of what gets returned, most of that can be resold because customer gets it. They say, you know what, I don't need this book anymore. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just gonna send it back to Amazon.
And they wanted that new. They didn't destroy it, which sometimes.
And then an employee, like Jim, is gonna go, it's a book. It looks like a book. Looks good. Okay, send it back to inventory. Or Jim's gonna go, I don't care about my job. It's damaged. Make them send it back to their house. It's kind of weird because almost all of the books I get returned that are quote customer damage, I open it and go, there's nothing wrong with this book. So I'm just joking that Amazon, it's no fault to the Amazon employees because I'm sure Amazon doesn't probably treat them very well. So
thank you.
I'm just saying that. Yeah.
No, that's so.
I just had some DVDs returned. It was brand new, China Beach, and it came back and it was just like squished and like the packaging was all off. But I looked at like all the DVDs and everything, and they were all fine. Yeah, they wanted to scrap it, and I got it back and I actually put it back up as used because I just put it back together and it was fine, So, but the one thing that I'm glad you actually brought up returns is I've had a couple where it says like Amazon, the people return it or whatever, and you see kind of deemed, but I think like in that case it had to be their fault in shipping or something like that. And I don't know whether you either usually bother on those at all, Joji, to kind of fight it a little bit, or you just take it as part of the business and move on because it takes too long.
I just take it as part of the business because I think like crazy things happen here and there, but so rarely. I guess they happen so infrequently that it's just a minimal part of the business. Like I'd much rather focus my energy on more positive things. Like I know for a fact that if I sell 1,000 books, that it's likely that 70 books of the 1,000 are getting returned. I just know that's just numbers, right? So it's like, why focus on that? Just focus on buying more inventory. Focus on improving your account health metrics in other ways. So, if it's their fault, if it's Amazon's fault, if it's the customer fault, if it's it does, like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. It's funny because my dad, I love him to death, but man, anytime there's anything wrong with anything, he's just like rant. And I always joking, I'm like, Dad, I was like, for my sake, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it does not matter in the grand scheme of things. I'm like, Dad, you are 60 years old. You got a limited time on this earth left. Do not spend it on people who, are not worth your time. I'm like, it's not worth my time to hear you talk about something that doesn't matter. Like, so I just take it as part of the business. And my rant and how he rants about all these little things that don't matter. So Olivia says, yeah.
Thank you.
Olivia says, when it comes to Keepa, should you look at the last year for the best picture or half a year history? That's a great question. What do you think, Judith? You think you should look at Keepa over the last half year? Is that the best picture of a product or the entire year?
I usually look at the whole year, at least.
The whole year? What about you, Jim?
Sorry about that. I was actually just about to move to another area in the house here.
Answer the question.
I typically kind of look I'll go to 1 year and just kind of look, and then again, because I've been watching you lately, I'll take it out to the full 4,000 days or whatever, 3,000 days, and just kind of get an idea of where it's been.
Yeah.
Especially lately, I've been kind of looking, and I still haven't figured this out very well, but I've been trying to do some Christmas books and things like that. And you almost have to look at a longer thing just to be able to see where books sold at, the price during the peak time, because they might be $10 now and they might be $80 Christmas, so it's nuts.
Exactly. Yeah. Great question, Olivia. I have my Keepa graph defaulted to a year because I tend to like, when it comes to looking at historical sales data, I tend to like to look at more data rather than less data. So I always keep it at a year as a default view. And I kind of what Jim says, it's just me. I love looking at the entire history of the product because I like to, there's so many little things that you can learn about a product. Like, did Amazon ever sell it? Were there ever the new third-party sellers? has the price ever been cheaper in the past? Was it significantly cheaper, significantly more expensive? There's a lot you can learn from looking at a product. What do you think about this offer count over the entire history of this product here, Judith? Like, if you were to say today's offer count, like, how would you describe today's offer count in terms of the offer count over the last lifetime of this product?
So, right, it looks like the offer count right now is pretty low. It might be 15, and in other times it's been 30 and above.
Yeah, 25, maybe even up to 30 at some point. So that's something that you can only understand by looking at a bigger picture, right? And why is that helpful? Because, right, let's just make things super simple. Supply and demand. What's the law of supply and demand, Jim?
Yeah, so actually, those graphs make a big difference on that, because you can look, and a lot of times when you see that the price is tanking or there's like a repricer war going on, it's because the numbers have shot up.
Yeah,
This one's actually pretty good right now. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, offer count is pretty low right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the grand scheme, it's lower. I pulled up this particular point for a reason, and that's because you can see when the prices of this book are generally lower, like in the $40 range, there's a higher offer count, right? And then as you see this offer count start to dip down a little bit, you actually see higher prices. Now, whether or not the book is selling is another thing, right? This is going back to what Jim said. If we zoom into a very particular point in time back here in October of 2019, look at this. So we see, look at offer count. So what's offer count doing here? Over this 2-month period, Judith, what's offer count doing?
There are times when there aren't any books available at all, I think, because it's a gap in the...
Okay, you're looking at a new offer count. Yeah, that's correct. So in the new offer count, you actually see that there is a gap. That means, what does that mean if there are gaps in a new offer count?
I think there aren't any books available.
Yeah, there's just up here that means that there's no new offers, right?
Because it's the purple line. Okay, so what you're asking about is the red line.
No, I'm asking actually about the used offers. So I'm asking, so what is happening to the used offers over this 2-month period back in 2019?
It's rising. They're more...
Okay. So think logically, if offer count is rising, if this number is increasing over time, it's going from 15 to 17 to 19 to 22 to 23. What should probably happen to the price of the book?
The price will get lower. The more available, price, supply, and demand. The more supply there is, the price will lower, usually.
So look at the price. Like, started at 54, offer count 13. And what's happened to the price?
Down.
Down, right? It's called repricing war, right? So people are trying to sell the book. Because what's happening right now is that...
11.56.
I know, right? We started at 54, got down to 11. And what caused that to happen was an offer count change from 13 to 28, a doubling in offer count. So we basically just said, you know what? Let's just double the number of people selling this product. What's going to happen to the price? Well, apparently the price of the product went down by it basically ended at about like a fourth of the price or a third of the price as it was beforehand. So yeah. Also, just a really cool thing to see there. This red line is actually trippy. This is called trade-in. So for those of you who are OG sellers, you used to be able to trade in your book for a gift card. And that's what that trade-in book, or that trade-in copy is. And I so wish that they didn't discontinue that when COVID happened, because there's tons of flips that you could have done Amazon to gift card. And I think that'd make a cool YouTube video. It's like, I bought this book on Amazon and flipped it back to Amazon for a gift card for more than I bought the book for. Wouldn't that be cool? I think that'd be such a cool video. There's a book that I would buy. Factually, I have bought it. I probably have sold it, although I'm not gonna I don't want to necessarily reveal my store front. But yeah, that's a book that I think I would buy. And let's go to my trackers. Let's see if I got notified of that book. Okay, yeah, look, there it is, Trevor Chamberlain's. I got notified of that book. I set a tracker for that book. I got notified for that book 2 hours ago, 1892. And yeah, I think that's definitely a decent deal. Okay, let's go back to the deals page. I'm sure it's going to refresh. We're going to have probably new books here at the front. And I'm just going to keep going until I find something that looks really interesting. Let me move this way. Why is that doing that? Okay, there we go. Oh, this is a great book to look at because the Keepa chart is so confusing in this book. So confusing. How do we determine what this book is worth? Even for me, like books like this, it takes quite a bit of analysis to figure out what the book is worth, because you notice down here, like the offer count, like there's gaps. You notice up here in the used price, there's gaps. You notice that sometimes the price is $130 and then sometimes it's $4. Like it's like all over the place. Look, Judith, you have buy box prices at $365. It's like, what the heck is this book doing? So how would you go about analyzing this graph and figuring out what this book is worth?
It's an emotional book. I mean, it
is an emotional roller coaster. Yeah. Let's just figure out what this is. This is the 12 Dancing Princesses. So what kind of book is this? Is this a textbook, cookbook, children's book?
Little child's book.
It's a little child's book. So think logically, what is a child's book probably worth?
Usually not very much. A couple
Usually not very much.
not
But
very
it could be a rare book. We don't know. Could be a really rare book someone wants. But that's how I kind of think about things first. Like, what's the niche? What's the top? Okay. From there on, how do we tackle this? What do we think?
We look at how many times it's the dips, how many times it's sold.
Okay. So does this book sell? Here's the sales rank.
It does.
Okay, it does sell. So we've established that it sells. Why do you think it didn't really sell from here to here?
Because it sold at Christmas. I'm guessing in February it already sold at Christmas and people aren't buying it, but I don't know.
Okay. Could be.
It did. It sold in November and December. Yeah.
Okay, so it sold. Yeah, that's correct. Sold November, December. Okay, so potentially, Jim, why do you think it didn't sell here? Why is the sales rank not dropping?
Are there any copies available?
It looks like there's nothing available.
There's nothing available. How can you buy the product if there's not available, right? There's no offers. It's unavailable. Like, you can't buy it. So
Joji, you're making me decent at these charts, man. Keep going, man. Keep going.
You got. I know, that's how we break it down. We think logically, right? So it's not available for sale. Obviously can't buy it. But one thing I really like that Judah said, she said Dancing Princess is probably a Christmas book. Like, it potentially could be a Christmas book. I mean, it doesn't say Christmas on it, but I generally tend to think like don't kids watch these kind of shows during Christmas? I have no idea. But clearly the sales rank is better during November or December, right? Does the offer count reflect people buying this book here, Judah?
Does the offer count reflect? It's not going almost any. I mean, it's flatlining, right?
The prices. Okay, I'm glad that you said that, because I think you're still having a little difficulty determining the difference between when I say like the offer count versus when I say the price, right? So remember, the top graph up here, this top box, this top graph here, the black line on that graph is the used price. But on the bottom graph, which is the one down here, the black line is the used offer count.
Got it. I was in the wrong graph. Thank you very much.
So what I'm saying is, we noticed what you told us, that this book sells more frequently during November, December. My question was, does the change in offer count reflect that the book was selling? Like, is it like reaffirm that the book is probably selling? If it starts here at 10, goes to 8, then it's 6, right? So it's just, again, logically think, okay, that makes sense, right? Basically, offer count was 10, sales range drops, boom. Now offer count's really low, right? So I would bet this is a seasonal book. What's one way that maybe, Jim, we could figure out if this is a seasonal book? What's like the best way to try to figure it out?
Just go all 3,073 days.
Yeah, just go all 3,000s and see if we can find a trend or pattern, right? So we were looking at 2022 Christmas. We can look at 2021 Christmas. Here's November, December. And there are times also when I don't know the answer to questions like, why did we have an offer count of 11 here? And then all of a sudden there's no offer count. Used price went from 43 and then it's just not available anymore. What happened? I have no idea. And then you see the offer count come back at 894 with offer count of 3. Do we really think one person bought 11 copies for $43 each? I would highly doubt it. So I don't know what happened there. Maybe Keepa just didn't track the data then. So there's it's not like everything that you see in this exact science. A lot of it comes down to like your opinion and like you trying to just you're piecing a puzzle together, right? So I guess that didn't really show us anything. We can maybe look at 2021. Well, look at this. Offer count goes from 14 down to 3. And it actually happens to be in November as well. We see a sales range drop. So it's interesting that the offer count would drop from 14 to 3 so quickly. But one thing that is a little bit more advanced about Keepa is that Keepa doesn't track every product at the same interval. Okay, and that's a really hard concept, even for me to have internalized in the beginning, which is that the way that Keepa tracks products is that whenever a user searches the item, Keepa then scrapes the data on that page. So part of the reason why we have this data is because a whole bunch of users are looking at these products, and then Keepa is then able to scrape data. So what that means is you might go like a 2-day period without any data on a page being scraped, or you might even go a week or even 2 weeks without data on a graph being scraped. So what that means is you could potentially go from November 20th to November 23rd, and maybe it was scraped on November 20th and scraped on November 23rd. So what we assume is the offer count staying at 14 and dropping to 3 might have actually been something like 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. But because Keepa didn't actually, I don't know. It's just weird, right? So I don't want to delve too deep into that, but it's just that, we use Keepa to try our best to make an educated decision, but we're maybe getting too far in the weeds. So I guess my question is, we know it sells. There's demand for the book. The question is, what should it sell for? If I gave you this copy for free, Jim, what would you list it at? I said, you know what, Jim, you have to sell this book. I'm never letting you watch another one of my YouTube videos unless you sell this book. What would you price it at?
It's kind of a tough one because it's all over the place. I don't know. Maybe I shoot for $20 if just to get rid of it. If I had to, so I could watch your videos again.
99 cents free shipping. Good. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, I'd probably say 25.
Did you notice when it was in that price of $20-something, it was also called a collectible book?
Ooh, yeah, right here, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, over and over it showed up collectible. So I didn't see I didn't see anything in the 20s that was not collectible. So what about collectible books? Because I have a book of Emmett Till signed by the author, and could we talk about that for just a minute?
Yeah, that's a great collectible. I love talking about
Would you list it in the collectible, or would you list it just as a regular book in Amazon, but say why it's a signed by the author, first edition? Or
Great
would
question.
you list it under collectible?
Yeah. Would I list this book under collectible? Probably not. But the argument for listing a book like this collectible is this is a book that's very likely to get high pricing errors, high pricing alerts. So I'm not sure. Have you had those before, Jude? You ever had a high pricing error?
Yeah, lately, I don't know what's going on lately, but
You've had.
yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of I was going to actually ask you about that. I'm glad you brought it up. And I had to keep lowering the price, or I could have had it sent back and then send it in as collectible. I was trying to figure out what I should be doing,
Okay, yeah. So the interesting thing is that Amazon doesn't have a high pricing error for collectible offers. So a lot of these Christmas books that we might plan to sell during Christmas for inflated prices, it might be better to list them in collectible condition, which is technically against Amazon's terms of service because there's nothing collectible about it. I mean, you can make the argument that's collectible, and Amazon has bigger, badder problems to deal with. They probably don't care. It's probably in the print somewhere it's against TOS. But a lot of the reason why people list collectible is so that they don't get high pricing errors. This is a book that's probably very likely to get high pricing error. But with that said, notice that in June of this year, Amazon allowed to be listed for $137. So that's kind of why I say I probably would just list it in used condition, because Amazon was allowing it to be priced that high. They're probably going to allow us to price it at 25, right? So this is an interesting book. What I know about this book is it sells. And what I will say is that when we look at the lowest use price, clearly people are willing to pay $6 for it. Usually that's plus shipping, so 6 plus 4. So someone's willing to pay $10. Not even just one person, but multiple people are willing to pay $10 for it. One thing that is interesting here is you actually see how somebody comes on the listing at 32, and then you see a sales rank drop. And this is kind of going back to what Jim was saying. You see how the offer count changes from 3 to 2. So that could be a used offer, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that. So maybe someone bought it there for 32. We come back here over to March, April, we see again multiple sales rank drops, maybe in the $5 to $7 range. What's interesting though is the most recent sales rank drop must have happened at what price?
32.
32, right? Because look what happens as soon as the sales rank drops. What happens to offer count down here?
It's
3 to 2, right? And then the price goes from 32 to 98. So probably at that point in time, it was somebody at 32. The next person's probably listed at 98. And then someone bought the $32 copy is, again, logically what I would assume happened. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's logically what I think would happen. So what I would say is that, and if we go back even here a little bit more recently, look at this. This is going back to the collectible offer, right? See, $28, sales rank drop. Collectible offer count actually goes from 2 to 0. Again, probably, I don't know, both collectible copies sold, but factually, when the book became more popular, the collectible offers disappeared. So probably someone bought it for 28. So this is a book that is all over the place. I think what Jim said is probably right. I mean, depending on the offer count, if it's really low like it's been in the past, I probably would sell it for that. Now, one reason why I like to go back, look at the grand history of this product is, what was Amazon selling this for back in 2015, 2016?
$3, right? $3.
What?
Yeah.
All right. Why do you think the sales rank is better back then?
Cheap.
Yeah, it's cheaper, right? Most consumers are gonna buy products when they're cheaper rather than when they're more expensive, right? It just makes sense, right? Your money goes further that way. So one thing that we could do is also try to look back in time and see, and again, remember established precedent. What are people willing to pay for this book? So looking back at August of 4 or 5 years ago, we see a sales rank drop, right? When the lowest use price is 47. There's no collectible, there's no new. So I would say there must be somebody out there who maybe grew up as a child, read this book, who was willing to pay $47 for it. I don't know, maybe because we see a sales range drop, but I would say probably right around $25 is probably what I listed at. I do think there's probably seasonality to it. I don't think there's a coincidence that in November it just started flying off the shelf. All that to say is some books are easy to read, some books are a lot more difficult to read. This is a book that's way more difficult to read, right?
What would you sell that book for, Joji?
I'd probably just list it at $25.
Okay.
Because I think potentially it could sell. I think in the past it has sold for up to 45, but maybe one time in the last 7 or 8 years. I know that people are willing to spend $10 for this, probably $10 free shipping. A lot of sales range drops. The difference between 25 and 10 is really not too much of an ask. Like 10 to 45 is a big ask, but 10 to 25 is not that big of an ask. Again, I think of it like logically. If somebody wants this for Christmas, can I see an adult paying $25 for a children's book? That is an old children's book that they have nostalgia for. Absolutely, right? Because nostalgia sells. So I would go with what Jim says. I'd probably list it for 25. And I bet you it would sell if you're at a low offer count. But if this happens, Judith, and we see offer counts are going 7, 8, 9, what do we again expect with the price?
It's gonna get lower.
It should get lower, right? And then it's probably unlikely that we'll be able to sell for 25. So, that's why offer count also does matter. This offer count has been much higher in the past. Clearly people want this book. It's just at what price they want it at. And I hope you all see that even though the buy box price on December 17th of 2022 was $365, do we logically think it sold for that?
No.
I hope to God no one bought that book for $365. If someone did, I am beyond feeling sorry for you, because why would you spend $365 for a book that is like that? So,
$2. So could I just real quickly question a question? Do you sometimes sell like this Emmett Till book that's pretty valuable because it's signed and it's pretty valuable unsigned if it weren't? I'm thinking of not listing it in Collectible, because often collectible books don't sell as frequently, but just saying it's like a like new book. What do you think?
Okay, so here's my thought.
Still Collectible, Joji?
I don't really sell collectible because my business model is all about buying below market value, selling for market value.
Yeah.
So to me, I think you have to choose your business model. Is your business model selling collectible rare books, or is your business model flipping books? For me, my business model is flipping books. So if the book's signed, great. I'm not even going to note that it's signed. I'm just going to, I don't care. I bought it for 15. I want to sell for 45. I could care less that it's signed. The person who gets it might leave me a positive review and say, oh, it was signed. But to me, my business model is buy undervalued, sell for market value. On the other hand, I know there's tons of very niche, rare, collectible booksellers who are like, this book came out in 1970. It's the second edition of the third printing. It's got, this different dust jacket, and this guy signed it, and now it's not worth 40, it's worth 85. And that's their business model. So it's like I'd say choose what your lane is. Do you think the time you're spending to decide whether or not this should be listed collectible is worth your time?
I get you. Yeah, that's really, really helpful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. We are on, we're ending here. My wife's coming home, see my baby boy's coming home soon. And I hope that a lot of people come back and watch this, because I feel like this was very helpful for everyone, including myself. I always learn as I go through these Keepa charts, because it's really cool when you can just kind of take a step back and take a long, time to deep dive on something. You learn stuff as you go.
Thank you.
Hey, Joji, by the way, people that are complaining about you talking fast, you definitely talk fast, but like when I watch your stuff, I have a pause button too. I can go back and I can check it out. So man, I say you just keep being you, because if you start, one of the things about you're very excited when you talk, about it. You can tell that you're into this,
Yeah.
And I think if you try to be different than who you are, oh man, I say you just be you.
Yeah, that's good advice. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That sounds good. All right. Hope everyone does well. See you guys next
this
week.
Was a stellar hour tonight that we did go slow. Thank you very, very much.
Right.
Joji, real quick, I did have one question on the Keepa tracker. When I try to go into the deals part, and I set up the columns for the Christmas books, like he says to do. Every time I go back in, it disappears, and now I've got to set up my columns again. Is there a way to save the columns?
You can tell
set them up, or is it just going to keep?
No, yeah, you can. So what you got to do is you got to come to, there's this top button called configure columns,
right?
So you click that, and then
then I picked everything.
Yeah,
and then all that. So I'm cool there. It's just all of a sudden when I go out of it, And I come back in to look at the different deals, like maybe your deals. Like I have setups for Joji. It says Joji's deals, Joji's books, stuff like that. So, when I go in to yours and now I come back to, let's say, the Christmas one, all the columns are gone. It's a big
Gotcha. Okay, so in Keepa deals, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like you can in Keepa deals here, but in Product Finder you can. So in the way that so let's just set a filter, like, I don't know, we'll just say 200,000. I don't know. So there's that many products, find products. So then you can come up here to configure columns, and there's this thing called load/save preset.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you can preset a name, and then you can save it, and then you could have like 10 or I don't know how many, and then you could always just change them.
Okay. So I can go in and I can configure the columns, but I got to go to the data and Product Finder.
Yeah, and another way you could do it is you could also just bookmark this page. If you bookmark the page, I'll save the specific filters, because this URL, right, there's all this crazy stuff in the URL, and basically it changes every time you change a parameter. So if you save that URL, like you can see I have a whole bunch of Product Finder searches saved up here. So if I click any of these buttons, it'll give me that specific filter. Like so.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joji.
Yeah, no worries. Take it easy, everyone. Have a great one. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.